Hi everyone, I'm Gaz.
And I'm Tim.
And we're from Element Games. As you can see, it's just me and Tim today. Matt is behind the camera, just so you know, he's not done a runner. But we're here today, we're talking about Runewars. So, Tim, tell us about Runewars.
So, Runewars is a new game that's come out from Fantasy Flight. Estevium were very kind and invited me down to Hampshire for a retailer day to basically show us the game, and I got a copy to bring back with me. So as you can see, the box is covered in all the great Runewars art. You got front and back, lots of cool bits going on. Your copy won't say demo on it. That's just for us, so we can't sell it on and do anything else with it. But like you say, Gaz, we're going to do an unboxing. So the first thing we're going to do, let's get it unboxed.
Let me get this off. Just so you know as well, everybody, there will be close-ups of everything that we take out of here today. Let me just take this up.
Is that a two-person job?
It is. I think it is. You know. There you go. Right, there we go.
There we go.
Hey.
So I'll pop that back there. So that's nice and safe. So as you can see, this box very similar to Star Wars Armada and Imperial Assault for the core set size, and it's absolutely brimming with stuff in the box. First thing we've got, as you get with most Fantasy Flight games, is the little leaflet of all the other gaming systems Fantasy Flight do. So we've seen that before. We can bung that to one side.
We've also got a lore guide, which it's covered in all the cool artwork, which I'm guessing is just all the story behind the game itself.
Yeah,
and, I'll have a look at that later on.
The cool thing about Runewars is that the IP, so the intellectual property and like the story in the universe, is owned by Fantasy Flight. Oh, cool. So they put the lore guide in there, so we can actually read up about the heroes and what makes up Runewars. And the best thing is that they won't have to go to third parties like Lucas or Disney, to make changes to the story or bring out new artwork. So that's all brought by them. And then the next two books we've got we've got a Learn to Play and a Rules Reference. Now these are your rule books effectively. The Rules Reference is full of lots of text and explanation. It's really useful. However, ignore this to start with. Start with your Learn to Play. Learn to Play, like the other games, is it's like the simplified sort of overview of the game. It's got lots of pictures, lots of diagrams. It explains like what tokens do, what dice effects do, and just goes through. And once you've done that, you can get your models out, assemble them, play with them, and then if you've got questions, that's when you go to the rules reference.
So what you're saying is people like me need to look at this one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
That's it. So I mean, what we did with the retailer days, we got demos, and then after I'd had a demo game or two, I then sat down with the rules reference and just read through it all. And because I'd played through the game a couple of times, it all made sense. But then any questions I had as I was going through the different sections, this document answers it all. So that's all pretty cool. Next bit we got a nice cellophane wrapped selection of tokens and bit. If you want to have a little delve through there, Gaz. We haven't got our plastic knife, unfortunately, so I'm just going to use a set of
Tim's car keys
to see if we can get.
Also got a few Sealy bags that are just full of all the different bases of variant sizes.
So with the bases, what's really cool is you're going to get ones which have got 4 circles on, and that's for your infantry bases. And then you've got ones with big squares, which are going to be for your heroes and your big gribbly monsters. And then those rectangles are for your cavalry.
You've got another Sealy bag here with a load of dice and bits for the dials, which are the movement dials.
So yeah,
very similar to like X-Wing or Armada, closer to X-Wing from the first looks anyway. So
in the cellophane, we've got a range ruler. With the core set, you don't really need to worry about range too much. Essentially everything, if it's in range 5, it's in. There's nothing that's got shorter ranges, but that's for later. So as we touched on briefly, we've got dials. So much like X-Wing, we got 2 sets of dials. We have to build these together. These are the backs of the dials, and then with Runewars, rather than having 1 dial for a ship, then rather than 1 dial for a ship, it's basically 2 for a unit. So with the dials, there's 2 per unit, and you've kind of got your first, which is mainly your movement or your action, and then the second dial is what they call the modifier. You can kind of see, and certainly in the close-ups you'll be able to see, there's blues, there's greens, there's reds, yellows, and whites. Whites are wild.
Okay.
But if you dial in a blue action and a blue modifier, they work together.
Oh, right.
Whereas if you do a blue and a green modifier, you don't get your modifier.
Right.
White to wild, so that all affects. Other bits you got on here, we got loads of little tokens. So you got wound markers, blight tokens, inspiring tokens, panic tokens, immobilize, stun. You know, once you get into the rules, they'll all make sense.
Okay.
He says.
He says.
Now,
is this anything like Armada, where you have to do a couple of moves in advance, or is it just?
No, it's very much like X-Wing. So, the start of the turn, you have the planning phase.
Yeah.
You set all your dials for all your units,
Yep.
and then we play the turn.
Okay.
So it is literally a turn at a time, and that's really useful how that all plays. Now we've got some terrain on this one. We've also got, these are really important. These are your rune tokens, and what we do at the end of the turn. So at the start of the game, in deployment, and at the end of each turn, we're going to toss the runes, as it was politely referred to. So we take the 5 tokens and we're going to throw them out. And as you can see, we've got blue, we've got 3 greens, we've got a blank one on one side, and we've got double orange, we've got blues there. Now these runes are going to have different in-game effects. So certain units, like the big golem, he has a movement that, rather than having a number about how far he moves, it has the picture of this rune icon.
Okay.
So his movement is, it could be 0 if you've got no orange runes, or it could be 2, it could be 4. The undead, say the Wakai, they, at the end of the turn, the skeletons can bring back dead skeletons for each green that's been revealed. Now, of course, you won't know that until you've thrown the runes and
so you've looked at your learn to play booklet.
So that's all that forest is coming off. And then the final bit, if you've played X-Wing before, you'll recognise something similar.
They look very similar.
Yep, so your movement templates. These have got little locks that work on the side of the movement trays that we got here. So you basically lock it in, pick the tray up and move it to the end.
So like Armada with the movement template. Yeah.
So that's a 4 forwards over there. You've got banks, you've got hard turns, and then also on here you've got the turn counter.
Yeah.
So
cool.
There we go. We've got in here, so we've got some cards which are going to be, you've got unit cards, you've got reference cards, so this will tell you like what all the modifiers do, what your actions do, dice icons. So each player is going to have one of these each, and that's quite useful to have in front of you to be able to see. And then we've got our deployment cards, and then we've got unit cards. So Matt will do us a close-up of this later, and it'll go through what the the parts are. So if we take this cavalry card, for example, one side you've got like the stats for the unit, so what attack it has, what special abilities, what its armor and wounds are, and then on the back, this is how you pick your force. So it tells you got your points down there, and it tells you on like how big the unit is, and that's how you build your force. So it works really well.
I've pre-opened these. There's a little bag down here, and these look like upgrade cards, very similar to like X-Wing and Armada. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. But again, we'll be more close up to that.
I mean, and the way the upgrades work is on the back of the unit, you've got little logos here, and it tells you what you can add to that unit. So the bigger the unit, essentially, the more upgrades they can have on them.
Oh, cool.
And then when it's talking about units, normally most stuff is going to be ranked up in a sort of pair like that. But then you can also add bases onto the back, and it all just locks in. This movement trades locks together, and then you can even come further out. So it all works quite well with that. So it looks like we've got to the end of the box there, because I think that's
Come on, Tim. Where's those tasty models?
Right. So we take this bit of cardboard out, and we got 2 more bags of models. So we'll pop that to one side now. So each faction looks like it comes in one bag, which makes it nice and easy. Yeah, so should we have a look at these guys to start with? So.
Looks like I've got the knights over here. That's just the foot soldiers.
Yeah, you got spearmen there. There's some there's skeletons, more spearmen. Yeah, lots of infantry. So skeletons, spearmen. Now these models are, it's board game plastic, so it's not the sort of the real hard plastic, sprue plastic. But what you'll find is that all your models have been clipped out, and you're going to have like 2 to 3 pieces max for a model. I mean, the guys were telling me literally, like, some of the skeletons, it's just body and head's there, and you just put their arms on, and they're good to go.
I mean, that looks the case with these guys as well. To be fair, just like put the shield on and put the spear on.
Yeah, really, I mean the spearmen are pretty easy. I think it's the Learn to Play book has got the instructions on how to assemble them.
Oh, cool.
So infantry are cool. However,
that's to one side.
We want to see big wibbly things, don't we? So, have a look at that carrying cavalry.
Oh.
So Matt will do us a nice little close-up of this. This is essentially a skeleton riding a big worm.
That's pretty badass.
I say worm, like a larva, maggot, big maggot thing.
Oh wow.
So one thing that the wacko, the undead do is they put out these things called blight tokens, and blight tokens go onto units, and you can spend them to remove dice when those units attack, or your undead character can come in and do mortal strikes, which are effectively unsaved wounds to the unit by spending the blight token. So it's a nice ability they've got.
Quickly, roughly building that. It's pretty cool. Goes together
really
quite
quick.
well.
So he's got a big spear that goes on there, and then he's got a little bit of a base that will plug into the monster base. So there's a monster base here. So there's your monster base. So he sits in the middle like that. He's pretty big and beefy.
Yeah, he's ace.
But obviously, it's not just the undead that are going to get all the cool stuff. So say hello to the golem.
Ace.
So this is a big rock monster. Let's see. That must go on like that, something like that. Now, I'm reliably informed by my friends down at Estevium that just your normal plastic glue will work on these models quite well. What you got? Revel?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's blue glue. So this guy's got 4 arms. He's a big rock monster.
This on, there we go.
It's
really simple to put together as well.
He's not got many wounds, but he's got a very high armour.
Yeah.
So what that means is you have to do a lot of damage to him to get a wound through.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like chipping away and doing them. But
they're really easy to put together as well, which is quite a bonus.
Cool. So he's pretty cool.
He's ace.
You got cavalry. We've got archers for the undead, and then we've got the characters. And the characters, what's really cool about them is that you can run them around as a single character. This undead guy is an absolute monster in combat. So he has a couple of axes that go on, put the axes on.
Yeah.
So he can run around like that, or you take him off his scenic character base, and then you pop him in a unit of skeletons. Okay. And so the 2 ways to play the characters is they've got a unit card, and you run them around as a single character on their big base, running around, killing people and all that. Or if you put them in the skeletons, they buff the unit of skeletons.
Yeah.
So there's 2 ways of playing with the characters, which I think is a really interesting.
Obviously, there's going to be different tactics for different ways. So
Definitely.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And you can add him to spearmen.
Right.
You can add him to skeletons. So it's a really interesting way to play it. So yeah, you could have a big unit of the carrion lancers, or you could put them in the skeletons, and he will buff the skeletons. So I think there's some really cool ways to play with it.
Oh god, yeah, that sounds great. So now we've seen everything that's in there, we'll have a bit of a chat about the gameplay, if you don't mind my questions. So is it kind of similar to sort of X-Wing? Like, obviously the movement looks very similar to X-Wing from what I've seen and what I've read. Is that the case? Is it still similar?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think I've chatted to some people about it. Is that if you've played X-Wing, if you've played Armada, if you've played Imperial Assault, there's elements from each of those games that's in this, and sort of almost the best parts of it. So the way a turn works is we'll set our dials at the start, very much like X-Wing, in the planning phase, and then we have initiative values. What we have a turn counter, and then that will bounce backwards and forwards each turn. So one player will have the initiative, and then next turn the other player will have the initiative.
Okay.
The pilot skill is kind of when you set your maneuvers, they have an initiative value on them. So if you wanted to do a short move or a quick attack, it would have a low initiative and go first. But if you want to build up for a stronger attack that does more damage, that would go later in the turn. And what the controlling player does is they start and they go, have you got any initiative 1s, 2s, 3s? And then one player will go, yes, I've got 3s. And then if we both go, I've got 3s, whoever's got the initiative, they activate a unit, then the other one, and then you go backwards and forwards. So I was just about to ask,
is it similar to sort of X-Wing in that regard then? So it's, if I had the initiative and I had an initiative 3, say, do I move and do my parts first, and then
you do one unit first?
So it's one at a time. So it's not like other tabletop war games where you do all of your movement, all of your shooting all at once.
That unit does everything it wants to do. but once that unit's gone, that's it for the turn.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can play around with your tactics a little bit.
Yeah.
So what you might decide is, rather than go charging into combat, you're going to do a quick sidestep, and then your opponent might have dialed in a charge, and they're going to run straight past you.
Okay.
Or you can change your facing. You could perhaps go for a shoot first. Some of the modifiers, you can increase your armor value.
Okay.
So sometimes what might be quite good is to get a quick maneuver in first, but put your armor value up because you're about to get shot or something like that.
Yeah.
But then, each turn, your models, like pilot skill, for want of a better word, their initiative is changing each turn.
Okay.
So you may not be able to anticipate. You might think, oh, that golem is always going to move first, and then I might actually go, oh, he's going to expect me to move first here. I'm going to dial in a slower one, and then maybe I would have moved forwards and you charged me, but because I've let you move first, I'm now going to charge you. So there's certainly a lot of tactical and gamesmanship, trying to sort of bluff and double bluff your opponent, trying to guess what maneuvers you're dialing in.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned this before, but I'll ask it again. Is it similar to Armada in the sense of do you put like 3 or 4 orders at once, or is it closer to X-Wing where once you've set it in your dial, it's just that one for this turn, and then you can do another one?
Closer to X-Wing. So each turn is kind of self-contained.
Okay.
So at the start of the turn, we'll do our planning phase. We'll dial up all our units, and once they've activated, we reveal their dials. They do what they're going to do, and at the end of the turn, everything's moved, everything's done whatever it wants to do, and then at the end of the turn, we take all our dials back, dial in next turn's moves, and then off we go again.
Cool.
So combat uses dice very similar to Imperial Assault and Armada. So in X-Wing, we've currently got red and green dice that have just got single symbols on, whereas the dice here, we've got different faces on. I'll move them out of the way so you can see. So you've got red and blue dice, which kind of your basic dice, and then the white dice are what the heroes do. And the white dice has got a lot of more sort of interesting symbols that do different things. But your red and blue dice are kind of what the basics are. So that's pretty good roll.
Is there any sort of defense dice, or do I roll exactly the same one?
No, there's no defense dice.
Right. Okay.
So the way combat works is, if it's a melee attack or if it's a ranged attack, I'm just going to roll my dice.
Okay.
And then what we do is we then compare your armor value. So if you've got an armor value of 3, for every 3 points of damage I do to you, you suffer a wound.
Okay.
And same with if armor 2, every 2 points of damage you do. So the way combat works in a way is, if it was a single base and I'd roll my my basic dice, I would do 3 damage to you.
Okay.
If I go wide, so I have another unit part of this, so another group of models, this increases what they call the threat.
Yeah.
And the threat's like a modifier. And then for each additional threat you have, for every point of damage you do, it increases.
Okay.
So for rolling 3 damage there, that guy by himself does 3 damage, but by having a base beside them, they do 6 damage.
Okay.
So where I said your 3 points of armor, that would have done 1 wound with him. That would do 2 wounds because it would be 2 lots of 3. Yeah. You can then also come back, and then if you come back with if it's a full unit behind, full lot of bases behind, you can re-roll all your dice. And if it's a partial rank, because you've taken some casualties, you can re-roll 1 dice. Okay. You've also got the lightning bolts, which are the surges, and the surges have got little abilities. So the surge on the Lord of Dakan hero is a really powerful one. She basically just turns around and she just lightning bolts other people for lots of damage. We've got this swirly thing, which is for the morale test.
Right.
Morale is quite an important one. There's some cards here. When we do a gameplay video later, I'll be able to go over what morale is all about. You got accuracy. So before, where I said characters can join units, normally damage is assigned to the back rank forwards. If I have an accuracy, I can actually target the people at the front. As you can see, you got like double logos, single logos, and it's all pretty simple.
Yeah, they look very similar to the Star Wars RPG dice.
No, exactly the same. Yeah. And this is it. Fantasy Flight have got some very good mechanics in their games, and if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely.
So it all works really well. And I think it scales up quite well.
Yeah.
So like I say, with your cavalry, so they get 2 red and a blue. But then if you take the second base, that scales up the damage. and then if you go backwards, and what you're not having to do is, if I've suddenly gone 3 bases wide, I don't need 3 sets of dice.
No.
To roll, and
it's just the same set
and then
of
I haven't
dice.
got to count up 3 sets of dice to work out how much damage. I go, well, it's that times 3 effectively.
Okay.
And same with the re-rolls as well. It doesn't really matter, how many ranks or whatever. I just get the re-rolls. So it's a very simplified combat that scales up very well.
Okay. So what other releases can we expect later on this year?
Well, I think very quickly, what they want to do is they want to get lots of content out for the game, so extra units. So we're going to get obviously the core set's releasing. We're then going to get the units from the core set, and there's 2 like character units coming out. So like the undead one has like a necromancer, banner bearer, like a little champion. It's like a square of 4 infantry guys. Cool. And same with the Lords of Dakar. They're going to have a unit of 4 of their guys. Now you can run them round as a group of 4, or you can put them in different spearman units. And there's different banners that have different effects, and then you're going to have magic from the mages and stuff like that. So there's a lot of scope from that. We're going to get the units from the core set are going to be released separately, but hopefully with different sculpts.
Cool.
So then, if you want to have multiple units of the cavalry, they won't all look the same. Which I think works really well.
Is there any other armies?
Yeah. So we're going to see there's elves and there's demons on the way. The plan is, now it's a little bit hush hush, but something might be happening in November. And what they want to be able to have at this event in November is not just core set versus core set. They want the Lords of Dakar, they want the Whacker, the Wakir, the undead, to basically have different ways of playing them and multiple units that you can have out. But you can have the elves and the demons, and they want variety, they want flavour, they want different ways of playing it, so that when you turn up to this tournament, it's going to be it really is about who's building the good list and who can play it well, and it's not just who can play best with the core set, which I think is really cool. So between what we're talking about 4, 5, 6 months. We hopefully will see not just core sets, we're going to see expansions. There's new heroes coming out for both of these factions, but then we're going to get new factions coming out as well.
Cool. So like any other sort of Fantasy Flight game, do you think this will make a good tournament game? So
So organised play is massive with Fantasy Flight. They do a cracking job of really promoting it with alternate art cards to win and stuff like that. So what they're doing with the organised play for Runewars is it's very much driven at 2-player. And what that's meant to be is you don't play together, but what they're hoping is that you might team up with a friend. So we're friends.
We're friends. We could be on the same team.
What we might do is we might buy a core set each, and I might go, here's the undead, and you give me the lords. And then we then have, so the box set is going to give about 100-point force, and it's a 200-point force to tournaments. And then that way we can start playing in the organised play, and we can then go ahead and start sort of playing against each other, playing against other people in the community and other event attendees.
That's cool.
And then the prizes are awarded in these pairs as well. Now at Element Games, we are going to be doing the organised play because we love events. It's kind of what I'm paid to do.
That's Tim's job.
It literally is. So we're going to be doing the events, and what we're going to do is we're going to put single player tickets up. And now, if you've got a friend and you're coming along to the event together, you can play as you're paired up. That's absolutely fine. But if you haven't, but you still want to play the game, then what we'll do is we'll pair like-minded people together, and then that way everybody still gets to play, and everybody still get a chance to win the prizes, because everyone likes the alternate art cards.
Oh, that's great. I think that probably just that wraps it all up there, I think.
I think all we need to do now is possibly have a game.
Well, let's build these models, because I seriously can't wait to play this. I really want to have a go.
I think the game is very easy to learn. But there's a lot of potential with list building and tactics, and it's the whole bluff, double bluff, what you're doing to actually be able to outthink your opponent. So it's something that I can teach you 30 minutes. And we can get playing, and you're gonna be able to just go and get going. But first thing we have to do is assemble the models.
Let's do it. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.